welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley. I'm a writer, an astrologer, and a card reader, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Happy Tuesday! It is How to Tarot Tuesday, and that is a weekly video series where every week I post a video that talks about one of the 78 card tarot. In that video, we go ahead and talk about one of the cards, and the first deck is always the Rider-Waite-Smith, which is the traditional depiction of the image of the card. And then I choose two other decks based on the symbolism of the card. I choose two additional images and two additional decks that I think best represent the card in question. And then what we do is the beginning of the video, we talk about the meaning in the card. You don't have to be a scholar at tarot to watch the video. Even if you've read cards for a long time, I always find it very beneficial to kind of go back and watch the How to Tarot. Sometimes if you're watching, I have what I call a weekly energy card reading. If you, maybe you had a reading where one card in the tarot was really standing out as a prominent energy, watching the How to Tarot just really helps. I've read cards for years and I still glean something new every single time I do a read. So, kind of looking at it and kind of trying to discern the symbols really goes a long way to helping us understand. Now, if you want to skip the How to Tarot part, the timestamps are always listed in the description box below. And after we talk about the symbolism in the card, we'll go ahead and we'll do a card pull for each of the decks. You choose the deck that you're drawn to, and we'll go ahead and see how this card is manifesting in your life. Now today we are talking about a very peaceful card, a card about kind of moving on and healing. And with the sword suit, it seems like every other card is a little bit of a challenging one. You've got the 3, you've got the 5, the 7, the 10. But all the opposite cards, the evens tend to be pretty calm and pretty kind of almost more of the comforting type of cards. So the 6 is definitely that, and after talking about the 5 of Swords last week, it's a great card to continue with. But I like to go ahead and have an oracle deck on hand. The deck that we'll be using today is called the Inquire Within cards. What that is that there are just messages contained. It's just like really simple, kind of instructions. So I feel like, I felt like this would be a wonderful oracle deck just to pull a clarifier, kind of pull up some advice when we get to your reading part. Now, and a few, also all of the names and the authors of the decks that I use are also in the description box below. So I'm just going to go through some very quick announcements and then we'll jump right into the how-to. But I just wanted to thank everybody for checking out my channel while I was away on vacation. It was funny, a few weeks ago, the weekly energy card reading, I had mentioned about how I got a drawer stuck on my work table. How like something inside of a drawer becomes dislodged and it starts jamming the drawer. And it was funny, that week I pick a deck with you, and that week I had the Page of Wands in the first position, like at the beginning of the week, and that's when the drawer stopped working. And it's funny, I ended up getting real crazy with it and picking up the desk and kind of shaking it, which is not like the traditional thing that you do. And I just wanted to give you a follow-up. It's funny, after I did that, the drawer opened, but it wouldn't close all the way. So I got the feeling like something was jammed behind the drawer. And it turns out I ended up having to turn the drawer upside down again. And I actually got, kind of finagled it where I could get to the behind the drawer, to see what was blocking it. I basically turned the desk upside down and, tried to get the contents to, sit on the top of the desk and move forward where I could actually reach in and grab it. So it was this whole production. But I did figure out what was blocking the drawer, what was making it jam was there were 2 checkbooks and a USB thumb drive that got behind the drawer. So it's all working now, and Now I know what to do should that happen again. But I just thought that was funny because you know how when you get like a page energy, you're like, what in the world does that mean? And that means that you're going to be wrestling a desk or you know something kind of, and it's funny, wands are a lot of action, so I wanted to share that with you. So but I am glad. You can tell I'm kind of mellow today, and it's funny. I've been very chill. I'm filming this on the weekend, and it's like I'm almost in the energy of the Six of Swords. I'm kind of meh. I'm in a good kind of meh, but it's like I'm just going at my own pace. And that really plays into the energy as well. But all right, enough blabbing. We'll go ahead and get started. When you look at the Six of Swords, what you see is you see a man who seems like a ferryman in a boat. In the boat in front of him are two seated figures. One looks like an older person and one looks like a child. And then on one side of the boat, you see what looks like kind of a little bit more churned up waters, while on the other side, the water looks more calm. Stuck inside of the boat are six swords that are standing vertical. And then in the distance, you see kind of gray. It's almost a monotone kind of sky and a monotone kind of land mass in the distance that looks a little far away. But what you see is you see the person gently rowing. Now, when I see the ferryman in this deck, this always really stands out to me because it does definitely look like a family. You know, it looks like a man, a woman, and a child. But one thing that always stands out to me is that, you know, a lot of symbolism has roots in kind of mythology. And in Greek and Roman mythology, they talk about the ferrymen when you pass over, how it used to be that you would put one coin on either eye when someone would pass away, and what that was is that was payment for the ferryman that would cross you over from the land of the living, the land of the deceased to the land of the afterlife, right? And that kind of sticks out in my mind because when you look at this guy, you see, you know, the rod that he's carrying, it's like he's pushing off, right? He's putting the rod down into the earth. It's the other thing is it's like he's still in shallow water, right? It's like he's pushing away, like just like when you cast off and you push away from like an island in order to sail someplace else. It's like these two people are just now, you know, casting off and starting in the new direction. Now, the interesting thing is, just like we said in the introduction, the six is a very peaceful card. It's, you know, after you've gone through the Two of Swords and the Three of Swords and the Five of Swords, it's like, you know, you've gone through heartbreak, you've gone through defeat, right? And so it's what the first and foremost meaning is, and the most literal meaning is moving on to calmer waters, right? There's rocky waters here, which usually mean emotions. And then you're moving on to better, bigger, and better things. A lot of times you see this card during times when there's been a conflict, like again, coming after the five, it could be after defeat. Sometimes it can be after a time of great distress, like maybe a divorce or a separation. Again, you know, different depictions have the different number of people, and actually we'll get into that because the first deck has 3 people, second deck has 2, and the last one has 1 person. So there's it's interesting. Most decks go with the traditional people in a boat kind of meaning, and actually as I was kind of auditioning my decks, there were the symbolism, just like the Three of Swords, the symbolism for the 6 is pretty across the board. You see somebody sailing and, you know, moving on. But the thing that I always think of is it is that moving on to a better place after really challenging times. It's funny, my parents, you know, my parents are divorced, and right after they had first separated, you know, I went to live with my mom, and it was a really, really, it was very much a Six of Swords kind of time. And my mom even described it once to me where she said, you ever have those moments when, it's almost like after the tower, right? It's that kind of calm after the storm. And it's really deciding where you're going and kind of very slowly taking the first baby steps in that direction, right? My mom who's very wise. I've always loved everything that she tells me is always so profound. But she described it as putting your ear to the ground. She said it's like everything is still. It's almost surreal, what you've been through. It's like this stillness where, okay, where am I going next, right? Everything's been thrown up in the air and everything has fallen back to the ground, and it's like, okay, where do I go? And it is, so the Six of Swords can be that, just like the Four of Swords, it can be that pause where you're deciding where you're going to go. Like and again, it's like baby steps. Again, this person is pushing that rod into the ground underneath the water, and he's pushing off, right? And he's going to do that for a little while. It's like, put that staff in the water, push. Put that staff in the water, push. And the boat's pretty big, right? And he's doing the work for 3 people, right? He's pushing the weight of all the swords and the people in the boat. So it's kind of like that. So, but definitely it's kind of it is a card about recovery. It can be dealing with the after effects of a trauma. If you see this next to a Pentacles card, maybe it was a loss of a job, or maybe it was a loss of a home. Sometimes if you have to move suddenly, you can kind of feel this way because it's very bittersweet. Sometimes it can be right after a tower moment where you're feeling a little numb, from all the events that occurred. The beautiful thing about it is a lot of times it is the calm after the storm. It usually comes after you've had a really hard time, and it's that kind of peaceful, kind of quiet. It's almost real silent in what happened, but it's almost like that that deafening kind of quiet that came after a really, really hard struggle. It is definitely the picking up the pieces card, right? A lot of times you see, again, it's like we talk about things that you value, and with the swords being thoughts, everything that you know to be of value to you is in one boat, right? Is in the boat and going with you. So a lot of times it can be okay, I also kind of see this as this card is when, have you ever noticed that if you're in the path of a really bad hurricane, they say, okay, what do you take with you, right? You take the necessities like gas and water and blankets and your family and your pets. But sometimes people take, heirlooms. Sometimes people take a hard drive with all their pictures on it. It's almost like, okay, what it is. It's almost like picking up the pieces of, okay, only the bare necessities, only the things that are the most important things in life are getting in this boat with me, right? Because I got to push it along, right? Sometimes you'll see this card after a time of healing, like maybe there's been a time of recovery, like physical recovery. So sometimes if you've had surgery, or if you survived a really, really tough disease, it can be kind of, again, those kind of baby steps where you're starting to feel better. You're not completely back into your groove, but you're moving on to better things, right? To calmer water, to better times. And a lot of times it can be when you're starting to see a little bit of hope again. Again, it's you're not completely out of the woods yet, but you're starting to see the light of day. And a lot of times, if it is related to work, or, some kind of separation, could be a breakup or something like that. A lot of times it is just that moment of just kind of it's those little fleeting moments, and I almost think of it as kind of a balance. A lot of times you feel much worse first, but then it's almost like as you go along, you just go through the day, right? You get up in the morning, you bathe, you brush your hair, you brush your teeth, and somewhere in that little mundane of kind of rowing, just I kind of see it as the just keep swimming card. In that rowing, in that doing that repetition, you start having little moments of feeling better, right? You feeling like yourself again, just little fleeting moments, right? Just little moments. But a lot of times that can follow, if this is following the loss of something or someone. Now, another meaning that we get that is kind of not really talked about too much, because a lot of times we think, okay, moving on to calmer waters, right? The other thing that I kind of get here is that it could be family related, again, with especially with the traditional Rider-Waite Smith. But one thing that you do kind of notice is that this woman is wearing a cloak, right? And she has her head down. And actually, as we go to the next deck, it's a similar image. This one actually has two people. So this is more, and again, you don't know if really the person that's rowing the boat is, whether or not he's with the person that's being rowed, because, in other times there were, you would get paid to row a boat. So it's not necessarily like this person's traveling with you. A lot of times you see that in kind of different movies where someone will pay someone to row them across the channel, right? But the vice versa tarot is the card back is considered the reverse. And what you see is actually when you look at the woman, she's carrying a cup. You don't see the cup when it's this way, but you do see, I like this rendition because it has a night sky. But one thing that you kind of see here with it being, and also the 6 being like, being the number, normally the 6 is the number of love, right? It corresponds with the Lover's card, but a lot of times it can be facing the blues a little bit. And that's one definition we don't talk about too much, because just like my mom used to say, kind of putting your ear to the ground. Have you ever had those moments when, again, that you might have gotten over something really kind of tough? Either that, or maybe you're in a job that's really not fulfilling, or maybe you're in a relationship that's really not fulfilling. And have you ever had those times where you just feel really drained? Like you feel kind of meh, right? It's just kind of like the blues. Like you get up in the morning, you open your eyes, and you're just kind of lay there, right? That is kind of the slow but steady kind of recovery kind of feeling of the 6 of Swords. A lot of times it's just kind of this low level sadness. Sometimes it can be doing that little dance with the depression. It's almost like the onset where you're functioning, but not much more than that, right? You're getting out of bed, but it's not like, it's one of those things where things are not bad, but they're not good either. They're just kind of like baseline. And that's where, it's kind of a dull, listless state. You just feel a little bit kind of blah. And, you're rowing, you're paddling, you're doing what you got to do, but it's almost a little bit kind of automatic. It's a little bit robotic. It's like, okay, I get up in the morning, I do my job, I come home. But, but it is about moving from one place to another, but you can see it's very slow movement. And the other thing is that I like this depiction because it's at night, right? You're moving through the night, right? And that's where with the night scene you do see the stars, which is hope, right? And the star follows the tower, which is very much, it's almost like the transition of the 6. Really, the transition of the 6 is almost like the bridge between the tower and the star. The other thing is that you might be doing this at night. Right? So sometimes when I see particularly the vice versa card, maybe you're moving to a better place by working a second job at night, and it is that slow and steady. Sometimes I see this when somebody is working 2 jobs in order to change careers. Again, you feel really kind of like you're just going through the dirge. You're doing what you got to do. It doesn't feel real exhilarating, but you're doing the work, right? Slow and steady. The other thing is that sometimes it can be working to get through the day. Again, the way that he's kind of pushing off, it's almost like you have to kind of push yourself, to exert the effort to, to do one more paddle, right? Do one more paddle. Sometimes a lot of times this can be maintaining the status quo, meaning that a lot of times when you see this, you're avoiding the lows, but you're also avoiding the highs as well. It's almost like you're keeping yourself in a middle state. Sometimes this card can come up, and actually when we get into the verse we'll get into that, but it's a lot of times it's that low, it's kind of that unconscious listlessness. That you're getting where you need to go, but it just seems like, again, just like, moving from the choppy waters. The land seems so far away, right? At this point, they're not even seeing land in sight. And actually, when we get to the reverse, you see that there's mountains behind them. It's almost like they're coming out of a cave, right? But it's definitely, it's going with the current too, because when you see the wavy water, the other thing is that in this depiction, the swords looks like a buffer, right? It looks like, if the ferryman wanted to try to turn the boat around, the swords would be blocking it from going back, right? So that is another meaning as well, and again, that's also why it kind of means depression, is because maybe you did just come out of a situation where you can't look back, right? And those are thoughts, right? Can't look back. The only way forward is in front of me, right? Got to go forward. Can't look back. The other thing is that sometimes it can be just part of the reason that you're kind of in that limbo state is because you are moving from one phase to another. This is a little bit of a Piscean card, because it's funny, as people, we always think that we have to be productive, that in order to be going somewhere, we have to be doing something. But there's definitely plenty of times in your life where the transition from one phase to another requires that you take a little bit of a break. And similar to the Four of Swords, this is about, if you just came out of something that was really trying, sometimes, going to the next place doesn't have to be on the Concorde, sometimes it is just, and again, water means motion. So, a lot of times I think a lot of times the reason that this is avoiding the lows and avoiding the highs too, it isn't because you don't want to feel high. It's just because it usually means that the situation that you're leaving was very unpredictable. You might have had really high extremes of emotion. So again, if you see this next to a Cups card, it really could have been a roller coaster of a relationship. And at this point, you want normalcy, even if that means that nothing is exciting. If everything's real kind of vanilla and bland for a while, you're fine with that, because at least it doesn't mean that it's drama, right? And one other thing, that when I do see this card come up in the upright, particularly next to a relationship or love reading, or like Cups, the other thing that I notice is that sometimes if you see this next to a Cups card and maybe the Devil, maybe even the Lovers in reverse, sometimes that Six of Swords can mean that, not to get psychological, but it can mean that, sometimes when you've known a lot of drama in your relationships, you're attracted to drama because it feels familiar. So a lot of times the Six of Swords is a great card because it means that you're finally breaking through that script in your own head. You're like, okay, just because it's drama, just because it feels, because the other thing is that real high intensity emotions in a relationship can be bad. Feeling the highs when you're dating someone that doesn't treat you right, or, isn't faithful or isn't honest with you. Sometimes in your own head you think, okay, that's love. But then, when you finally move away from that mindset and say, okay, I'm going to go for a relationship that's really on the level. It might be kind of bland, or it might feel that way to me, but just because something is high energy doesn't mean that that's healthy, right? So that's another thing that I like to see when the six comes up, in almost like like breaking the bonds of like devil energy. It's getting out of a bad habit, because and that would be avoiding the highs, because high doesn't, can be those roller coaster kind of high drama relationships. The other thing is that you could be moving away from difficulties. You can just be saying, okay, that, and that can be cutting either people or situations out of your life. And again, not looking back. A lot of times it is going with the flow, or, relocating for somewhere. My mom always says, sometimes this can mean an intermediary job or an intermediary living place. So, maybe you're moving to one temporary place in order to move on to the next thing. So sometimes the six can be in little hops too, because you see they're not traveling with a lot of luggage, right? And the person does look a little bit numb. They look a little bit crestfallen. So what it is that, another wise thing that my mom says is she always says, some circumstances are uncomfortable, but they're a wormhole to something better. So the Six of Swords is definitely a wormhole to something better. You're sitting in a boat and traveling is not always comfortable. You're in transit to someplace. Now, sometimes it can very literally mean that you're going on a boat trip, or that you're traveling over water. So it could very well mean a bridge, or if you know somebody who lives, like I know in the state that I live in, that we have a bay, right? And so there's a bridge that we cross if we want to get to the eastern shore. So that can be it, if you know that you're going to travel to someone. So if you see this next to the Chariot, it could be very well that you're driving to someone that involves going over water. A lot of times it's a very welcome passage. It's a great sign that things are going to be getting better. Sometimes if you're pulling cards and wondering, like worried about something, this is the universe's way of assuring you that you're on the right path, that you're going the right direction. It just might be going a little bit slow. A lot of times it can be, the release of a stressful situation or a beneficial change. But most of the time it means the worst is over, right? The worst is over. You're definitely going on to calmer waters. Now, the last deck I went with was a really interesting one. I pulled out the Jane Austen Tarot. And in this scene, what you see is you see boats in the harbor, and you see a captain standing on the dock, right? And what this is this character, you see his back, but this character is one of my favorite heroes in all of the Jane Austen's books. It's Frederick Wentworth. And Frederick Wentworth is the character, the main character in Persuasion. And gosh, I love that book. I love that whole story. But basically, Frederick, what it was is that he was in love with Anne Elliot, and Anne Elliot is an elegant lady, right? She's a lady of a kind of wealthy household. And what happens is he falls in love with her, but he's a naval officer, and at the time that they fall in love, he has no money, right? He doesn't have any real wealth, and she comes from a more affluent family. So she has his letters, and she loves him too, and she accepted the engagement. She agreed to marry him, but then she was persuaded, per the, hence the name of the book, she was persuaded to call off the engagement, because he wasn't other people were in her ear. And Frederick is very heartbroken, and what he does is he turns, he completely, and again, this is like the moment that Anne turns him down. He turns to his career, right? He turns to his career, and he goes into the Navy, right? And that's him traveling over water. And what happens is he spends the next 8 years, there were wars with Spain at the time, and he spends 8 years in the Navy, and he actually acquires wealth through working in the Navy, and he actually becomes very rich. And by the time he comes back, Anne's family has kind of squandered their fortune a little bit, and regardless, she doesn't care about the money, but she's always loved him, and it becomes this little dance where they get back together. But at this point in the story, she had just turned him down, breaking both of their hearts, and he turns to his career. And that was his Six of Swords, right? Him getting on a boat and going away from the source of his pain and rejection. So a lot of times when it comes to a situation or advice, and that definitely is more situational and, representative of people. It is about leaving behind a period of strain and worry and anxiety. It's going in a more peaceful direction. It's going towards something positive, something that you can do. A lot of times it's a trip or a journey. Again, it was an 8-year journey and again, it can pertain to career. But it was putting his past difficulties behind him in order, or leaving a situation that was deemed as not ideal in order to go towards something better. Now, when it represents people, it definitely meant, again, travelers, people traveling on a cruise, someone who's, emerging from a time of suffering, maybe someone who has had a divorce or has had to move or change jobs, or just, kind of the bridge between two jobs, especially if it involves a child, taking care of your family. And also, it can mean that if you could be the ferryman in this situation, where maybe you're helping someone or you're talking to someone who's going through a time of need. Now, when we look at the six in reverse, the first meaning is, normally it means that the energies, whenever you see a card in reverse, it either means the energies are dissipating, like they're becoming lighter, or they're getting stronger, like they're coming in almost in a negative kind of sense. Now, with the six being such a positive card, the first depiction that you would see with the six in reverse would be that there might be rough waters ahead. Because what you see is the waters, the rocky waters, are now in the direction that they're going, right? And it almost looks like they're moving backwards, right? So it's almost like a situation. A lot of times the six in reverse means a situation is holding you. You're being stuck. Like, it's almost like you can't push off, right? You can't you're in the boat, you want to leave, you're ready to go, but it's almost like you can't get away from your troubles. Sometimes it can be a delay or postponement. So maybe you've already been through like a layoff or a relocation, and then you get the news, oh, okay, well, your new transition house is not ready yet, so you have to wait. So a lot of times it can mean that. It can be, sometimes it can be you be feeling stuck in a negative thought pattern. Again, when you look at the reversal, it's somebody holding a cup, right? But you kind of, she's looking ahead, and she just looks kind of numb. A lot of times it can be you not, again, with it being a negative thought pattern, it can be you kind of stuck in that middle zone, because the Six of Swords is not meant to last forever, right? It's supposed to just be kind of that, again, that wormhole to something better. It's just an intermediary time. But if you stay there, sometimes the six in reverse means that you're unwilling to take any risk. You might stay in kind of a miserable situation or state because you're afraid of moving forward. Either that, or that it could be the full-on depression where you're just not motivated to go in the direction that you want to go. A lot of times it can be feeling like, if someone is helping you or offering to help you, again, with that ferryman, it could be you refusing to take the help. Maybe to be honest, sometimes you'll see this card in the reverse if somebody's in an abusive situation and then refusing to leave. Or they're staying in a bad living situation even though they have an opportunity to get out. Sometimes you might think that getting away would be too hard or not worth it. But a lot of times, it it feels like you're kind of paddling upstream. The other thing is that sometimes you feel like you're just trying and trying and trying and not getting anywhere. You can feel trapped or stressed or just kind of at a standstill. But a lot of times it can be you not facing reality, just like kind of like the Two of Swords in reverse. It can be, not wanting to really acknowledge that you have a way out. And, the same thing is that maybe if this is more of a career thing, you can, if you do see this next to kind of a workaholism kind of card, it could be that you're trying to get away from your troubles through work, but then you're just exhausting yourself with work and your troubles are still lingering on your mind. Sometimes it can mean a canceled, canceled plans or rescheduled plans. If it's a cruise, it could be, that something happened that, that it got, rerouted. A lot of times it can be, a lot of times, it could be like a change of scenery that you really need. That's just not, that's not gelling. Um, a lot of times, the one other depiction is that colloquialism that says out of the frying pan and into the fire, right? It's almost like things are getting much, much worse. You're not only in a bad situation, but it's getting to it's getting out of hand. But sometimes it can mean that maybe you got the wrong solution to your problems. Like maybe if you said, okay, I broke up with this person and I want to move, I'm just going to get away, and then when you get to that new place, you're miserable, right? Maybe sometimes you do see the Six of Swords of maybe you felt like a job wasn't really good, and then you change jobs, and then you're maybe worse off or more unhappy in that new position. A lot of times it's just a call to face your difficulties head on. Again, with the swords kind of being in front of you. Maybe that is kind of with the swords being in the reverse, it might be a sign that you do need to look back. Instead of saying don't look back, maybe you do need to turn. The other thing that I kind of get from that is, how I remember one time I had a crazy dream. It was years ago that this wolf was chasing me, right? It was a strange dream, but a wolf was chasing me, and it chased me out onto a pier. And I could either jump in the water or I could turn and face the wolf. And it's funny, it is, just like any fear. Sometimes maybe your fear of facing your problems or facing your fears might be pushing you into a direction that would be a bad call, right? A bad judgment call. It would take you on the wrong path, right? So sometimes turning around and just, looking down, what's chasing you, really would solve your problem. And then the other time, it can be that sometimes it can be transversing a lot of heavy emotions, again, with it being water and with it being upside down in the reverse. Sometimes it could be that you're just going through a lot emotionally, and you may need to, again, just like facing the wolf, it's kind of like you might have to delve a little bit deep. And what it's almost telling you is that I also see it with the six in reverse. Don't make any decisions until you've gotten to the root of your discontent, right? The one last meaning that I kind of get from it, again, with all the water and the swords, is that sometimes it can be not keep maintaining that middle ground in an almost sabotage kind of way. And again, it plays into making choices about, it's one of those things where, because maintaining the level, not feeling any pain, but not feeling any joy, you might feel like it's keeping you safe, right? It's like, okay, maybe I was in a relationship that really was one of those up and down, one minute you really love the person, next minute, one of those love-hate roller coaster kind of things. But then you start moving on, and then you just say, well, I'm just going to stay in the middle, I'm just going to stay neutral. And then in that life, you're not feeling any happiness, but you're not feeling any pain, but you're not feeling anything, right? And how is that living, right? How is that living? So a lot of times, sometimes it is kind of not letting any past pain determine your future path. And sometimes that is, hermit work. If you see the swords in reverse next to the hermit, it would just kind of be like, you doing the inner work in order to not let any negative experiences dictate your future. And also to let you feel alive. right? Because the six, you can see it is almost, if you see the Six of Swords in reverse next to the Four of Cups, you're in a very lethargic state, right? It's not healthy. You don't feel vital, right? You just feel like a lump, right? And in that same vein, when you see the six in reverse, when it pertains to people, it does kind of mean procrastinating people, folks who know what they have to do but are unmotivated, and that lack of motivation can come from many different things. Again, if you're feeling depressed, if you've just been through a really horrible divorce, no one's saying that you have to pop up like a daisy. Absolutely not. Just look at surrounding cards and kind of analyze your own feelings to discern what you should do next. And then, sometimes it can be someone being a little bit lazy. Those who are transversing really rough waters, a lot of times it's someone who is going through. And usually you see the six in reverse next to that person who is just, maybe they've been through a divorce, they're moving house, and then they had a loss in their family. That person is paddling upstream and they're just struggling. And those are when you see that next to a person or representing a person, that's somebody that you may really want to try to reach out and help. And then last but not least, when you look at it, it could symbolize the end of a journey, right? Maybe you did go on a journey to get away or to help heal some feelings or to go to a new place. Maybe you did, and this could be a journey of career or it could be a journey of education. Like maybe you did go through a real trying time in your life. I know for a fact that when I had broken up with a long-term boyfriend, and I really thought that I was going to marry this person. It was a long-term relationship, and after we broke up, I grieved for a really long time. I grieved for a long time, but then it was amazing. After some point, I decided I wanted to go back to college, and actually I had started college at the tail end of our relationship, but he wasn't real supportive of it. And so I decided that, okay, I'm going to do everything that I wanted to do, right? And it was like a springboard. It wasn't even, it wasn't anything spiteful. It was just what I wanted to do. And sometimes that Six of Swords was almost like, okay, the lethargy, the time I needed to heal after that relationship, which is usually half the time, half the term of the relationship is the time to heal. But it is, you do kind of lay and put your ear to the ground for a while, and then at some point you get up. And it was amazing. When I went through school, when I finished school, that was like coming back from my journey, right? It was like my journey of healing. I came back with a degree, and I came back with, having gone on my boat ride of healing. So, a lot of times when you see it in the reverse, it can be that. It can be that closure of a cycle, especially if you see it next to maybe the World or the Wheel of Fortune or the Four of Wands. It can mean, okay, you went on your journey and now you're in a much better place, right? But excuse me, whether it's in the upright or the reverse, the six is a very healing card. Excuse me. It's definitely more neutral. It's, can have a little bit of the Sunday blues associated to it, but it's, whether in the upright or in the reverse, it definitely means peace. It means moving on to calmer waters, and it means, finding new shores. So that concludes the how-to part. So we'll go ahead and we'll let you choose one of 3 tarot decks. And again, we are clarifying with the Inquire Within Oracle cards. I thought I was really drawn to use those because I felt like, since we're talking about healing, since we're talking about moving on to better places, why not get a little of Inquire Within advice? So the first deck is the Rider-Waite-Smith, and with it we have a beautiful Sunstone. The second deck is the Vice Versa Tarot, and we have a beautiful Dalmatian Jasper. And the third deck is my beloved Jane Austen Tarot, and with it we have an organic double pearl. And this one does tend to get a little romantic, but whatever deck you are drawn to, if you like the stone, the art, or the timestamp, whatever is really moving you behind your solar plexus. If you need more time, please pause the video, and I'll see you in a minute. Hi everyone. I just needed to notify you about one other technical issue, and I apologize. I'm learning new stuff every day, but it turns out that I had not fully charged my camera, and while the camera was on the stand, I plugged in the charger, and what it did is, as I was recording, it created this kind of low-level static. So if you hear kind of a hum in the background over the voice, the audio of the video for your read, I do apologize. It won't happen every time. It just happened this time because I had the camera plugged in at the same time that I was filming. So I've learned that to not do that in the future. But if you do hear a little bit of static, it is from that. Just please be aware of that as you pick your read. I appreciate your patience, and back to the reading. Okay, we're back. So we'll go ahead and move up the other two decks, and we'll start with the Rider-Waite-Smith. So Rider-Waite-Smith, how does the Six of Swords manifest in your life? Okay, pass please. Whoa, you saw that, right? Wow. Present, please. Present energy. And then future energy, please. Oh wow, these were popping out, so we're definitely going to take them. And Wheel of Fortune. Oh, the gang is all here. The Major Arcana gang is all here because you had Judgment, World, and Wheel of Fortune wanted to pop out. This is definitely a major life cycle for you guys. And what is our advice? What's our advice for our handsome Knight of Pentacles there? Anything you want to find is out there somewhere. God, I love this deck. I'm glad we went with this Oracle deck. But very clearly finding balance. So yeah, this was a major life cycle for you guys. And you know, you had several majors that wanted to pop out, but what I'm seeing is in the past you had Judgment. And Judgment it's a wake-up call, but it's also kind of like you see these people popping out of coffins, right? And we talked about how the Six is feeling like, you know, a little bit, you know, feeling the blues, right? You know, it's you know, you see this person with their head, you know, bent down. Sometimes in life, you know, you get that calling, you know. If you've ever had those times in your life where you feel like you're just, again, just spinning your wheels, right? You're just spinning your wheels. You feel like you're not getting anywhere. You're not getting what you want. And when you have those moments, sometimes the you know, life will come in and shake it up, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a tower moment. Sometimes it can be what I love about judgment is that angel calling, you know, blowing on a trumpet, and everybody is coming back to life, right? So in the past, I feel like, you know, you probably had moments, you probably had a few of those, of a few transformation moments, right? You know, coming out of a coffin is like, and Judgment does follow the death card, right? And death is metaphorical. It's those moments in life where you feel like you need to change. Something needs to give. Something has to change. The other thing that I kind of see is that, to put the astrologer hat on for a moment, anybody who was born like about 40 years ago is going through, what it is the planet of Uranus is in the sign of Taurus. And what it is you ever notice when people talk about a midlife crisis, you know, it's usually around your early 40s, right? It's that point in your life where you feel like, okay, you know, you start feeling your age, you know, you've passed certain thresholds, or maybe you haven't, you know, if you've hit certain milestones, or if you haven't hit certain milestones. Maybe you got married, maybe you bought a house, maybe you went to college, maybe you never went to college and you wanted to, maybe you never had kids but you wanted to, maybe you never got married and you're still dating and you feel like everything's real, you know, futile. there's moments where you kind of have that wake up call. It's like wakey, you keep thinking, okay, if I stay on the island that I'm on, right, if I don't take any other action, if I don't do anything, I'm just going to keep getting the same thing that I get. If you take no action, then you don't get anything new, right? The other thing is that sometimes judgment can be a great new idea, or it can be a calling, right? It can be the universe kind of nudging you in the right direction, and saying, okay, what was it? I was actually listening to the radio, and they said this great quote by one of my favorite, it was, oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank? It was a Zen quote, and I'll put the name of him let me go ahead and actually I'm going to go look at my bookshelf right now because I have his name. Wayne Dyer. Thank you, Wayne Dyer. I don't know why I was drawing a blank because I love him. I love his work, and he passed away a few years ago, and I, just his quotes are so profound. But it said, the difference between, it was something like the difference between a goal and a dream is having a plan. And that I really feel like is judgment, right? I am getting a little bit, you don't even have to be like at midlife crisis age, sometimes you can have, I've joked before, and I'm not saying this for you, I'm saying this for me, but I've joked that I've had a no life crisis, and those are those times where you feel like, God, what am I doing? What am I doing, right? Why am I still just here and not where I want to be? And again, the difference between a goal and a dream is a plan. You take steps, right? And I've even said before, I know some things that you can't plan out. Like, for instance, when you go to school, you can, enroll, pay the tuition, take the classes, get the grades, and graduate. If you want to get married, that's a little bit different, But what you can do is that if you know that you want to find a life partner or something like that, if that's one of the changes, that's the direction you want to go, you set your course, right? Which is like the Six of Swords. I think there's even a statistic that 13 dates is what they said. They said an average, there's even dating statistics that say that there are at least 550 quote unquote soulmates for you, right? And I don't know if I completely believe those statistics, but I do believe in compatibility. And what it is it's just a matter of getting out there and meeting people. And I feel like that's getting increasingly difficult in this digital age. You would think that the technology helps us, but I think that, technology is wonderful, but it also desensitizes us a lot. And again, where, you have the ability to swipe left and really pass up on someone without even meeting them, or I remember I've had phases where I went on a lot of dates, and there were a few times that I might have had a few awkward first dates, but then I pushed and said, okay, let's go on a second date, because maybe they were having a bad day, maybe I wasn't really seeing their true side. So, but within 13 dates, you would meet somebody. It's statistically higher chances. So even if it's a goal that's more, outside of your control, like meeting a life partner, you can still have a plan. And I feel like judgment is the universe trying to give you a plan, right? Trying to give you a direction. And it was really calling to you to do that. And this could have been, that calling, that blow of the trumpet it could have been a dream. It could have been just, and again, this being listlessness, it's almost like I feel like you're feeling like blah. Like, it is feeling a little bit midlife crisis, or pre-life crisis. Like, you feel like you haven't moved anywhere, you haven't had any change, everything's been feeling real stagnant, and you want change. You have a goal in mind, or you have a dream that you want to turn into a goal and give a plan to follow. So that's what I'm seeing here, is that you were called to action. But what I am seeing here is that the current energy, it's interesting. In the past, it's almost like you felt like a kind of a springboard to do something, or you had the idea or inclination to do something, but the current energy is, it's almost like you are going in the right direction, like you're starting to make the slow movement towards that goal, but there's just a lot to do. It's almost like it takes a lot of exertion. It's almost like that you see that rod, you see the guy, the farrier, and the guy holding the rods looks like the same person. It's almost like it's taking a lot of energy out of you to follow this path. It's requiring a lot of you. Now, one thing it might be saying is that maybe this forward motion, if this is related to job or career, maybe the one thing about the Ten of Wands is it's really about putting some of those rods down, right? You know, you're taking on too much. The irony is that I don't think that you're moving real fast, because the Six of Swords is not a fast moving card. Maybe also what I'm kind of getting here is that maybe you want faster results, but you're tired, you know? It's almost like, okay, I just popped out of this coffin, you know, I can't just like, you know, power boat, you know, off this island. It's going to take a little bit of time. The other thing that I'm kind of getting is that it's almost like, I'm really getting like that you have a lot of responsibilities. And with this being the card that has two people in the boat, what it might be is that maybe you really do want to get to a better place, but you have other responsibilities. Maybe your job is really, you know, intense. Maybe you have a child that you have to look after. Maybe you really have to make sure that the bills are paid, and it just, you know, you saying, you know, you waking up and saying, oh, okay, I want to start dating. And believe me, I empathize. If you're a single mom, or maybe you had gone through a long time of being kind of alone, and you decide, okay, I have this new goal, but this new goal is a great dream, but unfortunately I have to add it to the other 9 rods that I'm already carrying, and it's gonna be. But the other thing that it reminds you is that even though it's slow and steady, you know, it might be feeling kind of meh, but you are moving, right? And again, break it down. The other thing is break it down into manageable pieces. You know, anytime you have a goal, like for instance, and I've read stories about this too. I've read stories like in that same dating scenario. If you said, okay, I want to meet somebody, I want to meet a life partner, okay, it takes 13 dates. I remember I said, okay, I'm going to go on 1 date a month. And I did that. I did that 1 year. I think I went on 11 dates. I didn't quite make it to 13. So, but what you could do is you could say, you know, maybe you could try to set up a date every other week, you know, as long as you have 1 month that has 2 dates in it, you know, and that's over the course of a year, right? Or maybe even with the swords being 6, you know, or, you know, the rods being 10, maybe you could spread it out over 10 months. Maybe you have 1 month where you try to squeeze 2 dates in. But it's gonna take work on your part, but try to break it down into manageable pieces and try not to rush it, because it's gonna feel a little bit like the dirge is what I'm feeling here. You want change, and the other thing is I'm really getting a sense like you want to get away from, you want to get, you know, same crap, different day, you know? It's like you're tired of that. You really want something new. You want something new, and you want something positive, and you want something that doesn't make you feel like you're carrying 10 wands, right? But I think you're going in a good direction. It just feels a little slow right now, because I really do get the sense that you're just now casting off. Like you have your destination in sight. It's just going to take, and if this is work or school, sometimes I think of it in that context too. Maybe you were called to do something, and you're making the effort to do it, but it takes a lot of work, right? If you're in school, you have to get up early, you have to pack all your meals, you have to study late at night. It's not the easiest, right? But in the future, you got some beautiful energy, guys. You got some really beautiful energy, and I think this is going to make you very financially abundant too. But what I see is you got the Knight of Pentacles, so you're a man on a mission. And again, I'm getting slow energy, slow and steady is what I'm getting. Plotting steps is what I'm seeing for sure. And underneath the Knight, you've got the World, and you've got the Eight of Pentacles. And you know what this is telling me, guys? You are a hard worker. You are a hard worker. Anything that you set out to do, it's funny, I don't even need to tell you to make a plan, because you already got the plan. You know the plan. You got it all mapped out. But the only thing is that it's not going to be an overnight success, and it's gonna push you. It's gonna push you. The other thing that I'm kind of getting is that it's almost like you're staying in your comfort zone because you know it would be a lot of work, right? In the same, I'll stick with the same dating scenario. It is, dating is not easy. You go out, maybe you have a bad first date, and then all of a sudden you come home and you got work the next day, you got bills to look at, and you're just feeling like, what is all this work for? But you're gonna push through that, right? You're gonna keep going. You're gonna keep going. The thing is, a knight is a man on a mission, right? You're sent on a goal. And, so you're going to keep going. And the world and the Eight of Pentacles, gosh, guys, that's such gorgeous energy. You will complete this cycle. The other thing is that the four corners of the world are the four fixed signs of the zodiac. It's Scorpio, Aquarius, Taurus, and Leo. And if I haven't told you before, the fixed signs are the doers. They get shit done. They get stuff done. You get stuff done. And you will get it done. And the other thing is, it's almost like you're going to become a pro at it. Whatever goal that you're going after, you're really going to be advanced at it, and you're going to really plug away at it, is what I'm seeing. And that's going to bring you success. That's the one thing that's beautiful. One reader here on YouTube, she's so cute. I think her channel's called Soul Connection. Her name's Amy. And I love her description of the Knight of Pentacles. She's like, and the Knight of Pentacles riding in on his snail, And yes, the Knight of Pentacles does ride in on a snail, but he is still a knight. And the beautiful thing about him is he always gets where he's going. Of all the knights, he gets where he's going. And you'll get where you're going, because you're very determined, and you're willing to put the sweat equity into it. And that's absolutely admirable, guys, because seriously, so many people today just want what they want, and they don't bother to actually put the work in. The work that you're putting in will take you far. And that's why I was giggling when your oracle card came out, because I think this is it so plays into your theme. Anything you want to find, it's out there somewhere. Wow, guys. I just feel like this is like I think this is like carte blanche. And the other thing with all this money, this pentacle, this is carte blanche from the universe. Because this is also the world, right? The universe. Carte blanche. You write that check for whatever you want it to be. You want that dream? Go ahead and write that check and go after it. Because anything you want to find, it's out there somewhere. So again, I think... And it's amazing that quote came on the radio, but yeah, I think if you want to turn that dream into reality, make it a goal and get a plan and follow that plan, because you have the wherewithal to do whatever you want, and it's out there, and I think you have the ability to do it. I just think that what you would want to do is, you're a very industrious person, but I think presently you're almost feeling a little stymied, you're feeling a little waylaid, because you have a lot of irons in the fire right now, or you might be doing a lot at work. But it's almost like, make a little time, get a plan, reserve some of that energy for for you following the dream that you really want, and go after it, because I think that'll bring you whatever you want. But wow, guys, that's an awesome read. I really enjoyed that. That was very positive. Alright, so moving on. Deck number 2, the Vice Versa Tarot. How does the Six of Swords manifest in your life? So past energy. Okay. Present energy, please. Present energy. Please clarify the 8. And future, please. Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. Okay. We're getting a lot of reversals, but that's not a bad thing. It usually just means kind of energy that hasn't occurred yet. Advice? Advice, please. All right, guys. So I am. It's the irony is that the Jane Austen deck is usually the romantic one. I am getting more. I'm definitely getting a relationship vibe here. Reason being is the Ten of Cups flew out next to the card, right? And what we have is in the past position, we have the Queen of Wands, but we have it in the reverse. And what it does is it looks like you see the back of her throne. And the future, you have the King of Wands, but he's in reverse, right? And you see the back of his throne. So I'm going to kind of read this two ways. Because this could just be solely your energy, but definitely anytime the Ten of Cups is coming up, it's about your happiness. It's about your happiness. Sorry, I'm getting a lot from this. All right, so the two kind of ways I can see it is in the past, and again with the six being kind of that feeling the blues, it's that, avoiding the lows but also avoiding the highs. I am getting a sense of sabotage here, and not in a bad way. It's just what happens is when you avoid the lows and avoid the highs, you're staying in a neutral state. So it's almost like a state of protecting yourself, right? Because what are you doing? You're saying, okay, I'm not going to take any risks. If I don't risk anything, I don't gain anything, but then I don't get hurt either, right? And what I'm kind of seeing is in the past, the Queen of Wands is a dynamic person. She is the bomb. She's the one who takes action, right? She's usually the one who takes action with flourish. Like she'll when she wants to do something, it's like, it's daring, it's magnetic. She walks into a room and everybody stops and stares, right? She's definitely the influencer. And what I'm seeing is it's almost like, if this is your energy in the past, it's almost like you're putting a damper on it, right? You're putting a damper on, and I would highly encourage if we How to Tarot on the Queen of Wands, if you get a chance to watch that, it's particularly the Queen of Wands in reverse part. But it's like being a shrieking violet. It's almost like not living up to your potential, or not daring to be bold because you're afraid of, I think you're almost afraid. There's two vibes I'm getting from this. You're either afraid of failing, or you're afraid of shining bright. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you see this if somebody is, if somebody's in your sphere of influence that kind of dampers, wants you to, dim to fit in, is what I'm thinking. You're kind of dimming to fit in. So one thing that I kind of see here is, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing the Queen of Wands in reverse, and then Eight of Wands. There's wands across the board here, guys. And then the future energy is the King of Wands in reverse. So what it is that you might have the opportunity to transmute your energy from being the queen to the king. And you can be a woman in this energy. You can be a man manifesting as the queen's energy. What it is that it's almost like a graduation of you going into a mature fire energy. But right now you're putting a damper on that fire. You're keeping your fire dim. But you have the potential of this great happiness. You have this potential of this great, great happiness. And presently, you have that opportunity to get the green light for it now. What it's telling you is that it's saying, okay, don't dim to fit in. It's almost like, I feel like you have some kind of opportunity right now that could give you a chance for happiness, but you're rowing away from it. You see how they're rowing the opposite direction, and the direction they're rowing is past. right? This is past, present, future. So what I'm seeing is that this Ten of Cups, the other thing is that you see that these two people are on a desert island, right? And what it looks like is, when you look at the back of the card, you see the sea, right? And this image is the same image that's on the Ace of Cups and the Knight of Cups. So I kind of read this one of two ways. One way that I read it is that you might be really dimming, you might be afraid of taking a chance, something that would bring you a lot of joy, because the Ten of Cups is that joy money can't buy, right? But the time is now. It's almost like in the past you've really emotionally put a damper on your enthusiasm. You haven't allowed yourself to shine as bright. Maybe this is some kind of creative endeavor. If it's something at work, something at work, maybe you've been kind of shy to step up and be noticed. Maybe there's something that you want to do, but you're afraid. You'd rather, again, avoiding the high, but avoiding the low. I'm getting a little bit of sabotage here, but I'm getting the sense that your opportunity to move, to become this king's energy is kind of now. The time, the strike while the iron is hot. And underneath that present energy of the Eight of Wands is you've got the Star, you've got the Page of Pentacles, but both of them are in the reverse. So that means that, what I'm also kind of getting is that, with the Six being slow and steady movement, and the Page being kind of a novice energy, if you've had some kind of goal in mind, or some kind of, creative endeavor, or some kind of, also both of these are very strong leaders. So maybe there's some kind of leadership position, or something kind of bold, something kind of edgy. I'm getting a sense that you want to do something someone has never done before, and you've had your eye on it, but it's almost like well, that would be too flashy. I can't do that. Yeah, you can. Of course you can. And what it's doing is it's saying that, the Star is the first thing is, it's kind of interesting. This Star, when it's in reverse, you see a meteor shower kind of in the background. And this is such an interesting image. First off, it kind of looks like that character from Watchmen. I always think of that. But I also kind of see it as like the universe looking at the Star. It's almost like the universe is looking at you going, you're it, right? You are the hope, right? The other thing is that she's, kind of pouring water. I do kind of think of Aquarius, like the water bearer. It's almost like the universe is looking at you going, do you realize how beautiful you are? And there's a really bright red flower there too. Do you realize how much passion you have? Do you realize how successful you would be at this? Don't be afraid to be a beginner. You also see a cornucopia there. That's like abundance, right? And there's a rose. Wow, there's a rose on his cape. It's almost like that rose is you. That rose is you. And you could really, again, if I really get a sense of, stop sabotaging yourself. The other thing is with the King of Wands in reverse, there's a snake in the image, and I don't want you to be afraid of that. A lot of times I kind of see that as, in the Bible story about the snake being in Eve's ear. That's what I almost kind of think of. It's almost like, I feel like you might be having some negative self-talk, or, the other thing that I kind of read with that is that, especially with this much fire in the chart, is like, it's almost like you feel like you don't deserve it. Like, I'm getting a little bit of, like, some negative self-talk here, guys, but that's what's blocking you. That's what's keeping you in a neutral state. Here, it's almost like, the other thing is that the Ten of Cups is an extreme high. It's an extreme high, but you're moving away from it to stay in the meh kind of. The other thing is that you might feel a little bit blue, like, again, like this isn't possible, because both the King and the Queen are in reverse. Now, one other way that I can read it is that this could be a couple, right? And so this could be you turning your back or rowing away. You might feel like, and again, this being these are two counterparts. It's a king and a queen, and they both have their backs to each other. What I'm kind of seeing is that, it's interesting. You got two people in the boat. You got two people hugging on the island. One thing that I'm kind of seeing here is that maybe this is some kind of separation from someone that you would be really compatible with, but it's almost like both of you are not, neither of you are making a move. It's almost like neither person's making the grand gesture to make this Ten of Cups happen, and now is the time, right? And if you're a woman watching this, I really think that the man, if you're, this is your King of Wands, what I'm kind of seeing is that in the present energy, this person might be really debating whether or not to reach out to you. Because the other thing is that I see this person kind of longing. The one other way that I read this is, first off, the Star card. When a man receives the Star card in a reading talking about a woman, and especially when you got like the Queen of Wands in the mix here, this person who wants to reach out to you or make a move, or is really like the time is right to make the move, it's like he's keeping up with the status quo. He's avoiding. He knows that it would bring this real happiness, but I'm sorry, I don't mean to get off track. First off, the Queen of Wands is a very dynamic person, and they are the it girl. They're the it girl, and the Star is the it girl. It's almost like it's with the Star, it usually means someone, when it shows up in a reading about a man looking at a man's perception of a woman, he thinks that you are his ideal, like you are his everything, you are his Ten of Cups, you are his counterpart. And the thing is, you see that longing. What I kind of see is, yes, he does look like that character from Watchmen, but he also looks, what I kind of get is that he's dreaming about you or perceiving you in the 5D. And I'm sorry to get woo-woo with you. The 5D, if you're not familiar, is like 3D is the real world. Like when someone walks up to you at the water cooler and says, hey, sees you at the grocery store, hi there, can I get them digits? But 5D is when you sense somebody in the dream realm or in the emotional realm. And again, with these two being counterparts, I think this is someone that you feel like. It could be that you really kind of, have you ever had someone that you literally finish each other's sentences, or you think of the same thing at the same time? Or I've often said that sometimes, if you're going about your day, you're having a great day, and then all of a sudden you feel like a sudden heaviness or a sadness in the center of your chest. It might be the other person having a sad moment or missing you. Either that, or if you could do the same thing in reverse. Maybe you're having a really just kind of really quiet day, and then all of a sudden you feel real hyper and happy for no reason. That's kind of connecting to somebody in the 5D, and that's what I'm kind of getting. But you see the look of longing on this guy's face, and again, it seems like it's. The other thing that I kind of get is that it's almost like right now, again, strike while the iron is hot. This person wants, the Page of Pentacles usually means bringing some kind of physical gift. And it can be something small. Maybe someone does something like, mails you something, a card, or, I'm getting something a little bit more physical from this, though. It would be more than someone just like asking you out on a date. It would be an actual gift. And what I'm kind of seeing here is that I have a feeling that, again, if you're a woman watching this, feeling that both of you know that if you decide to go to calmer waters with each other, if you decide, the other thing is that if you did have a falling out with this person, because the one thing about the King and Queen is that they're both hot-headed people. They're counterparts for sure, because they are king and queen. Look at that, you know? They're both redheads too. Oh, you know, it's funny, in a video, several videos, I kept saying that blonde was the rarest hair color. Redheads are the rarest hair color. So you're both rare birds. But what it is you both see how, you know, I think what it is also is that I think both of you have a lot of pride. So one other way that I can kind of read this, because you see the back of both thrones, maybe you both had some kind of falling out with somebody, with each other, but you know that you're meant to be together. But you haven't, that no one has turned the other cheek to take the action, and that would be right now to move past the conflict, right? Because the other thing is that with this coming after the Five of Swords, it can be, okay, can we just kiss and make up? So if you have had a fight with someone, or if you're in a separation, what it could be is that right now is the time, right? Present energy, if you want your Ten of Cups, if you want to move on to calmer waters together, because you're both in the boat. And the other thing is that, you know, you'd be getting off the island and getting in the boat together, right? But, you know what, that's a whole new interpretation, because it's almost like, you know, reconciling, you know, hugging and making up, and then getting in the boat and moving on to calmer waters. But right now I feel like this action is not occurring, because one person is definitely at a distance thinking about it. And I think you guys are connecting in the 5D for sure. You're feeling each other. One might be having dreams, real vivid dreams. But I am definitely, and I try not to get too woo-woo with the romantic stuff, but we got two people, and we got a page with a coin. And now, just one third interpretation, if you do have a child with this person, or if there's a child involved, the reason that they might not be able to take as swift an action is because they might have some kind of financial obligation with a child. But other than that, the way that I across the board reading it is that I think that it does feel like a little bit of a staying in a neutral zone, even though. The funny thing is, these are 8 wands, and you guys are both the king. You're the king and queen of wands. You could just... I know that I don't mean to laugh because it's not funny, but I'm literally in my head seeing the scene where if one of you just took the wand in your hand, threw it at the other person, like, you know, kind of, you know how when guys in elementary school would come over and like throw a note that hit you in the head, and you know, I'm kind of seeing that, like someone throwing a note, hitting the other person in the head, and the other person turning around with an attitude. Because you both have tempers. And you both have pride. But I'm almost kind of getting that. The other thing is that the male might be listening. They might have someone in their ear that might be telling them it's a bad idea, and that's why no action is being taken. But it's crazy how connected you guys are in the 5D. And I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but there's a gift in play. There's a gift in play, and it's a physical one, but it's a small one, because this is a page. I think somebody is thinking about the other, and they have a gift ready. And I think it would be something, and you see how it looks like that person is looking at the back that's turned. So it's almost like they're afraid. They're listening to their negative voice. And the other thing that I'm getting is that they're afraid to take action because they're afraid of the highs and lows, right? The other vibe that I'm kind of getting is that if one of you take action, things would move very quickly. That's the other thing. It's almost like you want to keep, somebody's avoiding taking action because they want to keep it in that neutral, slow and steady. And if they take action because you're both real fiery characters, things will start chugging along the tracks way too fast. But it would give you that high of happiness. But I do think that someone's holding back. It might be flowers, because with the rose, might be flowers. And if this is a kind of an apology, or, you know, like the hay, you know. But the other thing that I kind of get is it might be something that's small but sentimental to you. But with you being the Queen of Wands, I think it would be something beautiful. It would be something beautiful. I don't think it's jewelry. I'm getting some weird energies here, guys. There is a nice gift, and I feel like it might be in addition to flowers, but there's something small that's, it's almost like something that the other thing that I'm kind of getting is inside, not even inside joke, because it's not a joke. It's an inside. This person knows you. This person knows you. Like, for instance, okay, for instance, I have a charms dish. You guys seen my channel? I owe you guys charms. We'll pull that out soon. But I have a charms dish, and sometimes, what if you're not speaking to your person and they know you so well that they would go out and get you like the perfect charm, the one that you don't have, that is just so cool, right? Or whatever it is that you like to do. I feel like they know you, and that they would get you some kind of little thing that would just totally be like the most awesome thing, because this is the King of Wands and he's awesome. But I am getting a lot of couple energy. If it's your energy, you might be preventing yourself from becoming the king, and because you're doing the shrinking violet thing. But what you want to do is, there's hope in this situation, but the time to act is now. The other thing that I'm kind of getting is, if this is just your energy on its own without another person in the mix, I would say that the universe is really trying to get you to take action, and to actually, take practical action, like actually take the first step, the first plotting step towards your happiness, because you will get there. And the other thing it's kind of saying is, don't listen to any negative self-talk. You could totally do this. You could totally rock this. But I am seeing couples here, so if you're a man, just reverse the roles. If it's a woman, I don't know if she would be bringing you a gift, but the other thing that I get from it is, it would be, if it was approaching you, it would be under some kind of practical pretense. That would, it would, how they find, if it's a woman approaching you and you're a man, it's almost like they're, when someone finds really valid grounds to break the ice, because you both have your backs turned, this person would, not only is she like the coolest chick in the room, but she would be walking up and being like, hey, I think you left your wallet on the table, here you go. And it's like a complete legit reason, to open up, conversation. And what I'm getting is that it would be merciful to your pride, right? Like, it's almost like she would let you off the hook for breaking the ice. She would break the ice, and she would do that in that smooth, practical, and in a real unquestionable way. So she'd give you an in, which, when you're talking to the Queen of Wands, that's really a nod. That's really like, you would feel like the winner, #winner. Now, you got 2 oracle cards. This one kind of tapped out twice, so I went ahead and went with it, so you do have 2. But the first thing is, make space for it. And the other one is, it's all for a reason. So what I'm kind of getting is, I'm definitely getting a few things here. Make space for it. I really, it's funny, in the 5 of Swords, How to Tarot, I talked a little bit about feng shui. And I'm going to get a little shui again. Make space for it is, it's very much a creative visualization. The other thing, I'll get into that in a minute. Sorry, guys. There's a lot of interpretation here. Excuse me, hiccup. Make space for it is, energy does not like a vacuum. Right? My sister would say it this way. You notice how anytime you clear off a shelf, like magic, more crap magnetizes to fill the space. It is the same way with energy. It is the same way with energy. And what it is that there's something called a bagua. And I showed it, and I'll show it again here. With the Bagoa, there's areas of your space. And when you walk into the room, the upper right-hand corner, like when you look straight ahead and look to the right, that is your romance sector. And what it is that when you put things, if you've been, like for instance, if you've been single for a long time, and maybe you're the Queen of Wands and you want to meet your king, what you can do is that instead of, you want to make room in your life for this person. Right? And it can be vice versa either, too. Like, again, I'm seeing two people who are not taking action, even though they know, and again, you know that this action would lead to a great happiness, but it's almost like you're avoiding the high, you're avoiding the low, it's a little bit of a self-sabotage. But what it's asking you to do is it's asking you to make space for this other person, right? There is a feng shui principle, like, for instance, if you keep complaining to the universe or to God saying, well, I want a husband, I want a wife, I want to be married, I want to be in a committed relationship, I want to find my life partner, right? Whatever, however that means for you, right? It doesn't necessarily have to mean vows and rings, but what you have to do is if you're kind of bemoaning that fact, but then you're not making space for that person to come in, like you're not making room, maybe you work all the time, and that's a lot of this energy too. You're not taking the action, you're avoiding taking the action that would it's almost like the universe is saying, I could have this person, I could have you guys tomorrow, I could have you guys together tomorrow, like magnetized, but it's almost like you're reluctant. You could have the promotion really quickly if you take the damper off and let yourself shine, right? But there is a feng shui principle where it talks about, like, if you say I want to find a life partner, but you have a single bed, or you have one nightstand. Now, I'm not trying to sell you on furniture that you don't need or anything, but what it kind of says is act as if, right? Maybe invest in a full-size bed. Maybe get another nightstand to go on the other side. When you go to bed at night, pretend like you're in bed with somebody else, nothing too kinky, but just, maybe pretend like you're leaving space for that void for someone to be there, right? Maybe even put in the nightstand things that you think your ideal spouse would like. And what that is, and you don't even have to get as extreme as that, but if you work so much that you never go out on a date, you're not making room for something else to come in, right? If you're used to, the other thing is that the Wands energy in the reverse can be very extreme, like, it's almost like your personality is too independent to allow someone else in. That's the other vibe I'm getting, and that's a Wands thing, because definitely you've met Aries men, right? Aries women, Aries men, Aries women, Leo men, Leo women, definitely Sagittarius. A lot of times they feel like, okay, well, I don't have time for a partner or this, but what I'm seeing here is that you two would complement each other. You wouldn't be in each other's way. You guys would be in the same page, right? You'd be ruling the same kingdom. But again, it's almost like I feel like one or both of you are afraid to go for it. I am getting a little bit of a self-sabotage vibe there. The other thing is that it's all for a reason. So the one I'm kind of getting here is that with it being kind of slow energy with the 6, if you have been waiting for someone, or if you've been idealizing someone, the delay might be for a reason. But I am definitely seeing like the time is kind of right now. I'm getting like, the 8 of Wands is definitely a strike while the iron is hot. But I do see that both of these energies are in the reverse, so I don't think either person is really making room, and that would be the tipping point, right? That would be the moment that you make space for it is when the pentacle and the star is going to turn around. When you actually dare to take the action. And what I'm also getting is that if you do take this action, yes, it is Wands and it is very fast moving and you will have some highs. But the other thing is that I don't think either of these people really feel like they're living, because that's the other thing is that the sad part about this is that you're both really dynamic personalities. And I think that you like to be happy. I think you like those kind of highs in life. but it's almost like you have to allow yourself to have it, right? You have to allow yourself to have it. But I do also think that it is possible for these two characters to be in the same boat, moving in the same direction. But there might have been some reasons for this falling out if you are not speaking to someone. So it is all for a reason. If you had to go through some lessons with someone too, and those lessons might be about pride, about managing ego. That's the other thing. That's the other thing about these two characters too, is that if they're in the reverse, there might be a lot of ego. There might be some dueling egos going on here. But I do think that there's a lot. I am getting a strong sense there's a lot of love here. But I definitely put that into practice, the making space for it. The other thing that I kind of get also with the Wands character is sometimes you do have to make a few compensations in order to cooperate with someone. And believe me, I can't talk, when you're in a relationship, as things progress, it can get really scary, right? Relationships get scary. You're sharing space with someone. You're sharing resources with someone. What if someone doesn't, what if someone leaves the toilet seat up, But the making space for it is also saying, okay, make space for that change. Make space for that moving together. And it would be slow and steady. It would be a transition, right? It would be transitioning into that, that new phase. You'd be going from a troubled past to a new happy future. And remember that she is carrying the cup in her hand, right? So there's a lot of love here, guys. But I think that, definitely now is an important time. But make space for it, and it's all for a reason. So. Wow, that was a real intense one. I do love that deck. The images are always just so cool. Alright, so last but not least, we got the Jane Austen Tarot. And again, the other two had a touch of romance to it. Jane tends to be romantic, but we'll try to read it however it comes out is how we'll read it. Sorry, I'm just checking my power lights. Okay. Got the 9 of Quills. Okay, I'll bear that in mind. I was kind of talking as I was shuffling. So, okay, 6 of Quills. What is the past energy? Ooh, okay. Oh, it came out again. You saw that, right, guys? Holy Toledo. Okay, we're keeping that one. Middle energy. The current energy, please. Oh, gosh. Yeah. All right, with Jane, we knew it was going to stay romantic, right? Okay, future energy, please. Strength. Lady of Coins. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get your advice card. Ooh, fell on the floor. Ow. Oh, that was graceful. Oh, gosh. Oh, I'm glad you guys couldn't see that. Okay. The card fell on the floor, and then I proceeded to hit myself in the head on the desk, on the table, so... Okay. Alright. Ow. That's gonna leave a bruise. Okay. Past energy. Definitely... Okay, this was the card that flipped out twice. You got the 9 of Swords, 9 of Quills, right? And you see someone who is having troubled sleep, right? This is someone who cannot sleep, and you see the 9 quills there. They almost look like, it almost kind of looks like the swords, right? And what it is that in the past, and again, if you missed the introduction, the 6 of Quills here is the character Frederick Wentworth from the movie Persuasion. And what it is that Persuasion was where he proposed to Anne Elliot, who was a woman of, she was a young lady of affluence. She had money from her family. But at the time he proposed, they were both very much in love with one another, him and Anne. And but she accepted his proposal, but then she later broke off the engagement because somebody was in her ear persuading her to turn him down. At the time, he was a naval officer and he had no fortune. What he does is that's the moment after he had been rejected, and he is looking at the ships like he's about to go on his journey. And what happens is he goes into the Navy for 8 years, and he makes his fortune during the British-Spanish wars. And he comes back, and that's the premise. But in this scene, this is right before, this is after Anne has broken it off. She has broken both their hearts because she loved him and he loved her. But he's like, okay, he's leaving his problems on shore, right? She's rejected him. He's heartbroken. He has his career ahead of him. So he goes ahead and he says, okay, let me, he was a naval officer and he went to fight wars. The other reason that she was persuaded was because she also thought, okay, being an officer in the Navy during a war, what if he doesn't come back and they're married, right? Then she'd be a widow. And, it's when you talk about the plight of a woman, believe it or not, women's rights haven't changed in a long time. Like, if you have a husband that was killed in the war, and honestly, even as modern a time as the 1940s, right, the Second World War, a lot of women were widowed, and that was not a time that a woman could just go to work, right? Yes, we employed women while men were deployed, but when the men came back, those jobs were no longer available. And then what do you do if you're married, if you have a child, and you're a widower from someone who was killed in the war? It was kind of like the same thing. In James Austen's time, it was magnified. You can't just you can't just bounce back from that. So what I'm kind of seeing here is, in the past energy, this does kind of feel like a relationship. I feel like in the past, this was something that really gave you a lot of anxiety. Now, this can be in a work context. It can. Sometimes when I see the Nine of Swords and the Nine of Quills, sometimes I see that as a lot of overstimulation. Like, sometimes you have a lot of worries on your mind, and those worries can be work related. Like, for instance, maybe you just have all these duties on your plate, and it's one of those things where you work so hard during the day, and then you get home at night and you can't even sleep, right? You desperately need your sleep, but you can't even sleep at night, and then you just have to kind of get up the next day and go back to the trenches, so to speak. Now, so if you're looking at it in a work context, we'll read it kind of both ways, but in the past, there was a lot of anxiety surrounding this situation. What I'm kind of getting is that if this was a love situation, what it was is that you might have initially, I really do think the stories of these cards is playing into it. That's why I love this deck. You might have really fallen in love with somebody, and you really did want to, you wanted to take the commitment further. Maybe not marriage, it might not be as serious as engagement, but in the past, what happened was there was somebody that you really had your eye on, but there might have been some anxiety surrounding this relationship. Maybe there was something about the person that just didn't sit right with you. Maybe they said things or did things or maybe there was just something about the situation that just made you question, right? Gave you a lot of anxiety, kind of. And what I'm kind of getting with this is that it is that anxiety where you're really torn. You don't know what to do. You have, I always kind of see the Nine of Swords as being that, that stacking kind of feeling. And I'm not sure if that's an actual psychological term, but stacking is whenever I get into a mindset where there's just, it's just a lose situation, right? And we'll see that in a minute with the Five of Quills, Five of Swords. We just had a tarot last week on that one. But it's almost like when you stack up all of your problems in your head, right? Like if you say, okay, well, I like this person, but they've dated a million, girls. They act like a player. They've said things to me that just didn't sound like on the level, and it would never work out. Maybe you're of a different religion. Maybe you're of a different, maybe your ethics are slightly different. Maybe you feel like you're too different. That's the other thing with the story of persuasion. Maybe you feel like you're just too different. Actually, one of my romance cards say that maybe we're just too different, but it kind of really kept you up at night. And the reason that it's so, like, when you stay awake worrying about something is when you kind of have those dueling thoughts. It's like it's not an open and shut case, right? Like, if you have feelings for someone, but there's this, again, that stack, that laundry list of reasons why you shouldn't be with this person, you're going to feel real conflicted, and it's just going to keep you on that hamster wheel. But I do think that you've lost a lot of sleep over either this situation or this person. And where you are currently is that, so in the past it was a source of a lot of anxiety. Now the present energy is that I do get the sense that we've got the Lord of Quills, which is the King of Swords. You got the Five of Quills, which is the Five of Swords, and you got the Six of Cups. So wow, I do think that if this is relationship related, you might be dealing with a King of Swords character. The King of Swords, he's very smart. He's very smart, but he can be analytical to the extreme, where he can come off as very, very cold. And one character kind of trait with Frederick Wentworth is that 8 years later, after the relationship got canceled, and he comes back from the war and he's all rich. And Anne, at that time, 8 years later, Anne's family has kind of fallen on hard times. Not terribly hard times. She's still wealthy, but he has almost as much money as they do, so they're more on an equal keel. And when he comes back, she still loves him, and she has missed him, and she regrets her decision. But when he comes back, he keeps a real poker face, right? Underneath the cold exterior, he's still heartbroken, and he still loves her. But he's not just his pride was wounded, but he was afraid to show his emotions because he didn't want to open himself up to being hurt again. But what he also does is he also starts kind of dating younger women around in front of Anne, almost as if to say, okay, look what you gave up. And I almost get that kind of Lord of Quills energy from that. What it might be is that in the past you might have had to make a real hard decision regarding someone. You really did care about them, but there were definitely, there was something about this relationship that didn't sit well, and you had to make a tough call. And then what happens is this person comes back, and they're being a little bit of an ice king with you. They're being real, the Lord of Quills is also like the chess player. Like, he knows how to make his mental moves. He also knows how to kind of screw with your head a little bit. And above it, you have the Five of Quills, which is that Five of Swords energy. It's winners, losers, right? And here, I'm not getting a real harsh Five of Swords from this. One other thing that we never talked about in the Five of Swords, How to Tarot, is that the Five of Swords can be picking your battles, like almost like you have to lose a few battles to win them. What's the phrase? You got to lose the battle, but in order to win the war. I'm getting a strong sense of this. It's almost like this person is playing a little bit of, he's playing the long game. And if you could be a man or a woman, if you're a man watching this, just switch the genders, then a woman is playing the long game. And what it is that this Five of Quills is Emma when she says the wrong thing to Miss who is it? She kind of insults somebody, and she's being a little bit arrogant, right? She's kind of up in her ego, and she inadvertently says something really offhanded, and she creates a win-lose situation in a public setting. So what I'm kind of getting here, especially, what I'm thinking is that it's quite possible that you might have had to make a really tough call with someone. You might have had to cut off somebody. You might have had to reject somebody, and you would have had really valid reasons for it. And this person is coming back into play, and they're playing the long game. They might have said something to you or said something about you in a public setting that was maybe made you feel kind of smaller. The other thing that I'm getting is I'm definitely tying these two kind of stories together, where what may have happened is that you may have had legitimate reasons for not accepting an offer from this person, but they might be coming back around, just like Frederick was, to kind of under the surface. They're really hiding their feelings, because the King of Swords really keeps a front on but what they're looking to do is they're looking to kind of, and I hate to say it this way, guys, it's almost like they're trying to knock you down a peg. It's almost like they're trying to put you into a position where, and not to be negative with it, but this could be, because the King of Swords can be a little bit of a power player, and I don't like when you have the King of Swords with the Five of Swords. Now, the crown of this energy is the Six of Cups, which is reconciliation, but you know what? I'm kind of reading it one of two ways. Frederick Wentworth is not a bad person, and when he came back, he did start again. He was doing that classic ex-boyfriend, ex-breakup thing, where it's like, okay, let me show you what you missed out on, right? Comes back to town, he's got more money, he's on the same financial, socio-economic level, so to speak. He's not a lord, but he's got bank. As Anne. So then he starts to kind of play the field in front of her. And that's almost kind of like the game that I'm seeing here. It could be that you did have to make a tough choice. This person was not acting on the level. It's almost like you had to move away from some negative behavior, and it was a hard choice for you to make. And then what's happening is that this person's coming back into play, and it's almost like they kind of want to do a power play in order to get you in kind of almost a kind of a malleable, kind of a soft position, where if they come back and ask for you back, that the vibe I'm absolutely getting is that it's almost like you made a good judgment call and you didn't want any more drama. But this person might come back around, and after you've kind of had the conflict with them, they might kind of get you into a position where all of that conflict has kind of worn you down, where it's like, okay, enough. Can we call this a truce now? I'm not the winner. You're not the I'm not the winner, you're not the winner, but I do almost feel like the 5 being an odd number, and it being like a little off kilter, it is almost like, I do think that this person has made you cry, and I do think that they might have tried to leverage the situation, just like Frederick Wentworth did. He almost kind of leveraged it to try to get her into a place where, she would, welcome him back with open arms. Oh, well, I regret my decision. Even though the decision that she made was valid. The decision she made was valid. She didn't want to be, nobody ever makes tough decisions easily. But one other way that I kind of see this too is that, quite honestly, if you are the King of Swords energy, after you've been through enough anxiety over the situation, that you're ready to move past it. The other thing that I kind of get from this is that, have you ever noticed that the moment that you start moving away from something, that's when things kind of sort themselves out, because this is going from the Five of Swords to the Six of Cups. It goes from a 5 to a 6, and then this is a 6. And it's almost like, yes, there might have been something there was something that really had you in an anxiety state all the time. Maybe it was some kind of relationship or some kind of situation. It can be a job that just didn't make you happy. It just made you feel insecure. It made you feel not confident in yourself, right? And what you did is you said, okay, you see this when you talk about someone being their best self, right? Because the Six of Swords is about going away from rocky waters, right? You're moving away from the drama. You're saying, okay, I need to get away from this. And that's another thing that was really great about Frederick's story, is he said, okay, I'm not going to stay in England. I just got jilted. I'm going to go pursue, if I can't get shit right in my love life, let me get my career on track, right? Let me focus on something else and move away from all of those rough emotions. And I feel like that's what you did. Is first off, you got really in your head. That the other thing is that if this is your energy, you said, okay, no more self-doubt. I'm going to become the straight up Mr. Darcy of my own situation. I'm going to own my thoughts. The other thing about the Lord of Quills is that he is definitely head over heart dude, right? And Frederick was head over heart. Even though he was heartbroken, he didn't let it show. He said, okay, I'm not going to let this hold me down. So what I see is that if you're showing up in this energy, and you could be a woman in this, what you said is, you said, okay, the other thing is that in this scene, he's writing the letter to Elizabeth Bennet that kind of lays everything out, that just kind of said, look, this is what happened. I made this decision. Oh, that's the other thing, is that in that letter, Mr. Darcy is explaining why he made some of like, there were a few actions that he took that Elizabeth Bennet thought he was a jackass for, and he's totally like, I did this because of ABCD. I almost get the feeling like if you did have to refuse somebody, or if you had to make a tough call because it was making you anxiety prone, and that's not healthy for you, so bunk that. I'm leaving that energy behind. You got strong in your headspace. Like, you invoked your King of Swords. You finally said, okay, enough of this anxiety crap. I'm moving away from anything that's going to put me in, stress mode. And but one thing that it might have done is that it might have been a little bit of verbal back and forth, though. One thing is that if this is the other person, you might have made the other person cry. I don't think that you intended to, but again, in that situation, I sense that this was a tough call. But I almost get the sense, like, with your letter, you might have had to call the other person out on some bad behavior, and that person probably didn't take that too well. They probably thought you were a jerk. But what I'm seeing here is that honesty is important. And what I'm seeing is that I think that's the other thing about the Lord of Swords, or the King of Swords, is that he doesn't mince words. When he tells you the truth, it's usually the truth. He wields a sword, and that's why he gets the reputation of being kind of, verbally. But he's a mature character, so I don't think that you told this person anything that they don't know. The other vibe that I'm kind of getting, because the other thing about Frederick Wentworth is that he's a good man, but those 8 years away, him missing Anne and him coming back and them kind of having their dance of courtship, it really made him wake up to some of his pride. Like, there's some great quotes in Persuasion. If you quote, like, I think, not to give away the ending, it's a wonderful ending, but he's just like, he nearly loses her for the second time, and he's like, please tell me that I'm not too late. My stupid pride got in the way. I think by you kind of calling out this person, you didn't mean to, like, scar anybody with your words, but they were causing you a lot of anxiety, and they did have to correct themselves a little bit in order for this to work, in order for you to move to calmer shores. there's some changes that need to be made. And what you kind of see here is you do see two people crying here. You see the woman that Emma insulted, and you see, you know, this is Fanny Price. But what I do see is that I see that the current energy is that whomever this King of Swords, if it's your energy or the other person, there was some cutting words that were said to each other, but none of it was lies. You know, all of it was the truth. And what I'm kind of getting is, I think that you might have had some time away from the situation or away from the person, and you're feeling much better. I think you're aware of your own faults, and I think the other person has become aware of their faults. And you got the Six of Cups here. So the one thing in the Six of Cups, these are two people who've known each other for a long time. Also, you know, these two characters, these are two people who've known each other for a long time, who have a very strong bond, and these two people also gravitate away from each other and come back. So what I'm kind of getting is that I do get the sense that this there's genuine connection in this situation, but it was causing you an unhealthy amount of anxiety. You got your head straight, and you spoke the truth. Even though it could have been a little cutting, you spoke the truth, or you heard the truth from the other person. And you took some time away. Your Six of Swords is that you took some time away. Maybe you focused on career, maybe you even just took a sabbatical where you focused on your own thoughts. But I do see that there's a Six of Cups here. There's a potential that you and this other person are going to gravitate back together. Now, one thing I'm getting here is that because these two are the six, and actually when we get to the future energy, I don't think that this is concluded yet. This situation has not concluded. The other thing is 6 is 6 correlates with the Lovers, so it is, I am getting a relationship vibe from this. But I do think that there were some honest truths spoken to both of you. It might have been kind of a hard pill to swallow. I think both of you had to make changes. But I think that after both of you have gone on a journey, so to speak. I think you've both focused on your own goals. And if this person comes back, because the other thing is that there's a letter here too. There's somebody writing a letter and someone reading a letter. And what's beautiful about this card is that it's like reconciliation over what was said. I get a strong cathartic kind of tears from this. It's almost like, again, just like Frederick Wentworth, when he comes back and he says, do we still have a chance? Can we make this work, right? Can we make this work? I think there's a chance that, yes, you might also presently be in kind of a reconciliation mode with someone, but it's in the preliminary stages, because remember that you're making slow strides. You're not going fast with this energy. Now, your future energy, this is amazing, guys, because I know Jane Austen kind of repeats themes, but in this read alone, you have the stories of 3 different books of characters who were separated and who later, separated because of pride as well. All 3 of these characters are separated because of some kind of ego or something not being on the completely balanced with the 2 characters. But the future, you got the 7 of Coins, you got the 7 of Pentacles, and in the distance, you see Miss Smith, and there's what it is her farmer Robert Martin. And what I'm kind of seeing is that just one other thing that I can throw out, and I'm sorry for all the different analogies here. This, if you're a woman watching this could be that there was some kind of romance with someone that you had to turn down. It broke your heart to turn it down, but you did state some legitimate truths. You called him out on some legitimate truths, and it made both of you cry. It broke both your hearts. and this person became very cold. This person really, they put up a shield. The other thing is they put up a wall, right? And I don't think they're really showing you how you feel either. Frederick Wentworth was not, what he did is when he came back, he did not have his heart on his sleeve, and the King of Swords does not have his heart on his sleeve. But what it is that they went, all three of these characters went on to work on their career. So this person might have thrown themselves into work. And in the future, you see them working hard. Now, the one thing is that Miss Smith, it was the same scenario. She had Emma persuade her not to get together with Robert Martin. There might be some third-party interference here, guys. You might have been separated from someone because of either a job or something, and it might have taken some time and some separation, and I think both of you have grown in this separation. But in the future, it's not, the situation hasn't concluded yet. We have a 5, 6, 6, and then the future is a 7. We haven't gotten to the 10 yet. So what it is that, you know what I'm almost seeing is that this person might come back around. There were definitely, you're not on rocky ground, but the other thing about the 6 is you're on neutral ground. It's almost like things are not, again, you're avoiding highs and avoiding lows. You're just in the middle. You might be feeling a little bit blue because you're separated from someone, but it's almost like I think you're around each other again, because again, Frederick Wentworth and Anne Elliot, you're around each other again, but it's almost like I do get a sense that you missed each other, but you haven't taken any action yet to move forward towards, like you both haven't gotten on the boat yet. What I'm kind of getting is that you're speaking again. I think you are, what you're doing is you're taking stock of where you're at right now, but you're not separated anymore. I think you did have some kind of, I think there was some kind of text message or email that kind of broke the ice between you. I think this person is definitely, whomever, if this is your energy, I think both of your energies are a little bit guarded, in a neutral sense. Like, I don't think you're being cold with one another, but you're definitely not exposing your heart at all because of the words or the things that have been said, and the anxiety that your relationship had, you know, the emotions that you had churned up in the past. You're trying not to churn them up again. But in the future, you both are watching one another. You're watching one another. The other thing about this is that, and I think both of you are just kind of focusing on work. The other thing is, I think both of you are gauging how fast you want this to go. But this scene in particular, Miss Smith is watching Robert Martin. I think it's almost like you're kind of watching each other from a distance. And you're discerning what potential the future of this would bring. I think you're being very practical about it. Again, both of you. The one beautiful thing about this pile, and the beautiful thing about all these stories, guys, is that all three of these couples, they did not jump into anything lightly. And that is very mature. Again, you got a king here. You know, he's not going to do anything stupid. He's really going to think it out first. But the other thing is that if that king makes a move, like if that person's reaching out to you or you're reaching out to that person, that was a very thought out move. It took time and effort for them to say, okay, I want to take that step. And all three of these couples, when they got back together, they were a lot more mature and they were ready. They were ready to go forward peacefully, right? They were ready to take the steps. But we have 5, 6, and then 7, and the 7 is of Pentacles. So I think this other person, if you're a woman watching this, your guy is working, probably throwing himself into work, and he's thinking about the practical aspects about, you know, talking to you again. And the other thing that I kind of get is, I'm getting the sense like satellites. You guys are kind of like, you're circling around each other. I'm definitely getting a sense that you're circling around each other, because all of these characters do that. Anne and Frederick, anytime they're in the same room. The other thing that I'm getting is that anytime, if you find yourself, and I know we're still in quarantine times, but if you find yourself in the same room with this person, you gravitate to being 6 feet away from them, but you don't talk. I know that sounds so crazy. I'm getting that very clearly, because like when, again, and it's almost like you're being cautious, you're being careful around each other. Plus, I really don't think that you know what to say to one another, because again, you've had these words, you've had these really frank conversations with one another, but it's almost like when you speak to each other, it's one more kind of, it's one more push of the, of the boat moving forward to peace. But your future is definitely, the future is not decided yet. You're taking slow and steady steps, and you're being very cautious. You're gravitating around each other, and I can almost promise you the communication that you have towards each other is very thought out and careful. But that is because nobody wants to make a bad move. Nobody wants to start the up and down of happy, then sad, then, depths of despair or heights of joy. We don't want to go into that pendulum swing anymore. And I also get the sense that both parties want to make sure that it is the absolute right thing. The other thing is Harriet Smith had gone through, she had been persuaded away from, this was another jilted engagement too, by the way. If this resonates, please tell me. This might just be for a few of you. It could quite potentially be that somebody wanted to propose marriage, but they were deterred from doing so. Or something happened and some kind of fight occurred right before, and now it's like on eggshells around each other. But Seven of Pentacles is very practical, and it's and again, when Harriet Smith, after she ended up getting paired up, or tried dating several different guys before. The other vibe that I'm also getting is that with both of these men, both of these characters, it's almost like in the time apart, you might have dated other people and realized that your person was really the right person for you, even though you weren't always on the same page. But it is almost like you're gauging where you would want this to go. Now, your Oracle card is real interesting because, again, with all of these characters, this scene in Emma is really right before they got back together. And Frederick Wentworth, he ends up getting back together, right? And your Oracle card is, it is within reach. And look at this, guys. It is within reach, right there. 6 feet apart, right? And, arm's length apart. I'm also getting, you see how his hand looks a lot like this hand. I'm also hearing arm's length, which would also be very much a King of Swords energy. It's almost like you're keeping... I'm thinking of this movie, and I'm sorry, please, I did not anticipate this How to Tarot being very romantic, and all three piles were pretty romantic, guys. But arm's length, what I'm seeing very clearly is, if you've ever seen the John Cusack movie Say Anything, you know how after they broke up and Diane Court really broke his heart. After she goes through, and that's the same scenario, she has a really bad experience. Her father ends up getting convicted and sent to jail, and she comes back to him in a humbled state. And she goes to where his kickboxing is. That's the other thing, is that he really threw himself into his job or his passion. And it's funny, in the movie, kickboxing was not a cool thing, right? It wasn't an acceptable career by her rich family, which is total, oh my gosh, that Say Anything and Persuasion is so similar. But when when Diane Court is humbled and comes back to see she goes back to see him at his kickboxing class, and he gets distracted and he gets punched in the nose. But when he gets, he's kind of bleeding. But he stands up, and she's reaching out to him, and he keeps holding her off by the shoulders. Like, you can see he looks so conflicted in his face, because he doesn't want to let her close again, because he doesn't want to get hurt again. That's such a Frederick Wentworth energy. They do end up, embracing, but that's what I'm getting, is that, you're almost like, like, you're, all of those scenarios are afraid of getting hurt again, and not wanting to go too fast, and not wanting it to be the wrong thing. But both characters are mature and humbled by being separated and by the conflict that occurred. But I do think that you do want to go slow. I do think that you're currently, if this involves another person, you're talking to the person right now, because the ice kind of got broken. But it's real careful movements. You're both not sure if this will really will work out right, but you're trying to be very practical. But it is saying that it's within reach. The other thing is, that looks like a pentacle, right? It looks like a pentacle within reach. And I'm telling you guys, the hands in this too. There's pentacles, and if you see that, that's real powerful, guys. I think you are on the precipice of something, and I do think that you're on the precipice of, the other thing is that normally it's two people or three people in the boat. I think you could potentially be moving towards a calmer place with somebody else. And I am getting a strong sense of reconciliation after a separation, or a really time of growth apart. But it's within reach, so just, that hand. And if you could even Google it here on YouTube, if you watch the scene from that movie, I think of that. It's real powerful. It's a real emotional scene. But wow, guys, oh my gosh, that turned into a total love fest. I did not anticipate that. But I hope that's helpful. I mean, again, we haven't done too many lovey readings, so I hope this was helpful, and definitely, clarified the meaning of the six. If you are liking my content, if you enjoy the How to Tarots or the weekly energy card readings, I would be very honored if you'd like, comment, and subscribe. When you click like, or if you are a YouTube Premium subscriber, when you save the video, it definitely, what it does is it puts it into circulation where other people can be offered the video to watch, which really does help and support my channel. But if you are so inclined, I am very grateful for all of my subscribers. I thank you for supporting my channel. And I hope that you have a good week, and that if you would like, please join me on Saturday for another weekly energy card reading. I hope you'll take it easy, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.